Chosen ones, this message is for you. Do you truly understand the power of God's protection over your life? No one who plots against you can escape the reach of divine justice. They may have schemed, they may have even come close to succeeding, but here's the truth. Their failure wasn't luck. It was God's hand at work. And now those who dared to cross the line are facing consequences they never saw coming. Before we dive in, let me take a moment to thank every one of you who has supported this channel, especially through Super Thanks. Your kindness and faith make it possible to share these revelations with the world. If this resonates with your spirit, drop $9.99 in the comments as a declaration that you trust in God's timing and His unmatched justice. Now, picture this. While your enemies were busy digging pits and rolling stones in your path, they didn't realize they were setting the stage for their own downfall. Just as Proverbs 26:27 reminds us, whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. What happens when their own traps snap back with a force they can't escape? What happens when God not only blocks their attacks, but uses their schemes to expose them? The reckoning is here. For some it's spiritual, for others it's literal. Jail cells, shattered reputations, and public disgrace. God is preparing the script for their downfall. And the best part, you didn't have to lift a finger. Are you ready to uncover how heaven orchestrates a justice so swift, so profound, it leaves your enemies trembling? Let's delve deeper into this undeniable truth. God's chosen ones, they're going to jail. They failed to take your life, but God can take theirs. 1. The miscalculation of power. Have you ever felt like the odds were stacked against you? Like the people around you, those with influence, resources, or power, were working overtime to see you fail. And yet, here you are, standing strong, even when everything seemed designed to crush you. Have you ever paused to wonder why? It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's because you are chosen. Being chosen isn't just a title. It's a divine calling that comes with an invisible shield, a protection so powerful that even the forces of darkness tremble before it. But here's the catch. Your enemies don't see it. They look at you and think you're vulnerable, easy to destroy. Why? Because they measure strength by the standards of the world. Money, connections, physical might. They forget one critical truth. No human effort can override what God has ordained. Do you remember Pharaoh in Exodus? He thought his kingdom, his wealth, and his army were enough to defy God's command to free the Israelites. But what happened? Each plague that struck Egypt wasn't just a punishment. It was a declaration that God's power reigned supreme. Pharaoh believed he was fighting Moses, but in reality, he was battling the God of all creation. For this purpose I have raised you up, to show you my power, so that my name may be proclaimed in all the earth. Exodus 9:16. Now think about your own life. How many times have you faced people who underestimated you? How often have they tried to use their influence or manipulation to derail you? And yet, their plans failed. Why? Because your battles are not fought with worldly weapons. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. 2 Corinthians 10:4. So, when you choose not to retaliate, when you remain calm in the face of attack, how do you think your enemies perceive you? They mistake your silence for surrender, your stillness for weakness. But let me tell you the truth. They're walking straight into a divine trap. Just like Haman in the book of Esther, who built gallows to destroy Mordecai, they are unknowingly creating the tools of their own downfall. Haven't you seen this before? The people who plot against you always seem to face consequences far greater than anything you could have orchestrated yourself. Why? Because God fights for you. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Think about David and Goliath. Do you think David's enemies took him seriously? A young boy with no armor, no sword, just a sling and a few stones. They laughed. Goliath mocked him. But what did David say? You come to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts. 1 Samuel 17:45. David knew something his enemy didn't. The battle was never about strength or weapons. It was about who was fighting for him. Now, do you see the same pattern in your life? Have you noticed how often your enemy's plans crumble? How their power seems to vanish at the moment they think they've won? This isn't random. It's divine justice. God isn't just watching from a distance. He's actively working on your behalf. While your enemies are scheming, plotting, and gathering their resources, every move they make is being recorded and monitored by heaven. Do you think God is unaware of their intentions? No. He's letting them walk into the consequences of their own actions. Their arrogance blinds them to the fact that they're not fighting you, they're fighting him. So, when the attacks come, what should you do? Should you retaliate? Should you defend yourself? No. Stand still. Trust in the God who has already won the battle. Let me ask you one last question. Do you truly believe this? Do you believe that the one who called you is strong enough to protect you? Because if you do, then you know that no miscalculation of power, no enemy, no plan, no force can ever succeed against you. You are chosen, you are protected, and no weapon formed against you will ever prosper. 2. The divine boomerang effect. There's a spiritual law at work in the universe, one that is as precise as it is inevitable. What is sent out returns amplified. When harm is plotted against the chosen ones, against you, it's like throwing a boomerang with reckless force. The thrower might feel powerful in the moment, convinced they've gained the upper hand. But what they don't realize is that their every action is already setting the stage for their own downfall. This isn't karma, it's divine justice, tailored and deliberate. Have you ever wondered why certain schemes against you seem to collapse without you doing anything at all? Joseph's story in Genesis illustrates this truth beautifully. His brothers, driven by envy, sold him into slavery and thought they had removed him from their lives for good. Yet every action they took against him only served God's greater plan. Joseph's suffering led to his rise, and in the end, it was the very same brothers who had to bow before him. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. Do you see how God can take even the darkest moments of your life and turn them into stepping stones for your purpose? The same principle applies to your life. Those who conspire against you, telling lies, setting traps, or scheming in secret, are digging pits they themselves will fall into. This is not about retaliation on your part. In fact, the chosen don't need to lift a finger. Your silence carries more power than any response, because it allows divine forces to work without interference. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Does it ever feel like your silence is misunderstood as weakness? Look at David's story with Saul. Despite being relentlessly pursued and wronged, David never struck back, even when he had the opportunity to do so. He understood that vengeance belongs to God. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord." Romans 12:19. David's restraint wasn't weakness, it was wisdom, rooted in the knowledge that God's justice is far more effective than any human action. Have you ever considered that withholding retaliation could be an act of faith? Consider Haman in the book of Esther, who plotted to destroy Mordecai and the Jewish people. In his arrogance, he built gallows, confident in his plan. But, in the end, it was Haman who hung on the very structure he had built. This isn't coincidence, it's the precision of divine justice. Can you recall moments in your own life where the harm intended for you seemed to backfire on the one who caused it? When the boomerang of their actions returns, it doesn't just bring back the harm they intended, it magnifies it. It strikes them where they are most vulnerable. Their reputation, their relationships, their ambitions, or even their freedom. Their confusion and desperation are the result of a higher plan they cannot comprehend. Doesn't it bring peace to know that every scheme against you is already under God's watchful eye, and while their plans unravel, you, the chosen, continue to rise? Every attempt to harm you only propels you closer to the purpose God has for your life. The harder they push, the faster they accelerate their own downfall. This is why silence is often the most powerful response. It's not passivity, it's trust. Trust that the one who called you is also the one who protects you. What if your current trials are simply preparing you for the victory God has already ordained? The lesson is undeniable. Those who aim to destroy someone under divine protection are ultimately setting destruction in motion for themselves. What they send out will always return, amplified and inescapable. So, stand firm. Let your peace remain unshaken, knowing that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You are chosen, and no plot against you can prevail under the hand of divine justice. 3. Ego is their downfall. Have you noticed how often arrogance paves the way for someone's undoing? Ego is a double-edged sword, powerful but ultimately destructive. For those who rise against the chosen ones, their ego becomes their greatest weakness. They operate under the illusion that their power, status, or connections make them untouchable. This inflated confidence drives them to cross boundaries they should have never approached. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. Why do they feel so invincible? Ego blinds them to the bigger picture. It convinces them they are in control, but they fail to see the unseen forces at work in the life of someone who is chosen. Your steps are not random. They're guided by divine orchestration. Even in moments of struggle or vulnerability, you are being positioned for something greater. But the enemies don't see this. They misinterpret your hardships as signs of weakness, thinking you are an easy target. Do you remember Pharaoh's arrogance in the story of Moses? His ego made him believe he could defy God, even as Egypt crumbled under plague after plague. Each act of defiance only accelerated his downfall. His power, which he thought was unshakable, was stripped away as God's hand moved. This is the trap of ego. It blinds people to reality and leads them to overreach. The Lord Almighty has a day in store for all the proud and lofty, for all that is exalted, and they will be humbled. Isaiah 2:12. How many times have you seen someone's pride push them into decisions they couldn't recover from? The enemies of the chosen ones fall into this trap repeatedly. Their arrogance fuels them to strike harder, to manipulate, to lie, and to attack without restraint. They see your calmness and mistake it for defeat. They don't realize that ego is leading them into their own destruction. It convinces them they can control outcomes, but they are stepping into a fight they've already lost. What's fascinating is that you don't even have to respond. Your silence is not just restraint, it's wisdom. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 11:2. Divine justice doesn't simply correct, it humbles. And when it moves, it dismantles the enemy's entire foundation. The Lord lifts up the humble, he casts the wicked to the ground. Psalm 147:6. So what happens when the power they relied on disappears? When the allies they trusted abandon them? When their carefully crafted image begins to crumble under the weight of their own arrogance? The irony is undeniable. They believed their ego made them strong, but it was the very thing that made them weak. Think of Goliath, standing tall, mocking David with his overwhelming size and strength. His confidence blinded him to the fact that his defeat was already sealed. Goliath didn't just fall because of a stone. He fell because his ego made him foolish enough to underestimate the power of God working through David. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. James 4:6. In the end, the enemies are left broken, with nothing but the realization that their perceived strength was the very cause of their collapse. Ego didn't make them invincible, it made them reckless. Meanwhile, you, the chosen one, stand firm, untouched, and rising above the ashes of their failed schemes. The righteous will never be shaken, they will be remembered forever. Psalm 112:6. Doesn't it bring you peace to know that you don't have to fight back, that the very thing they rely on to harm you is the seed of their own undoing? Ego is their downfall, and divine justice ensures that no amount of arrogance can ever overpower the calling and protection over your life. 4. God uses their jail sentence as a stage. When the wicked find themselves behind bars, it's never just about the physical imprisonment. Have you ever wondered why their fall is so public, so undeniable? It's because that jail cell is more than a consequence. It's a stage. A divine platform where God demonstrates his unmatched ability to humble the proud and hold them accountable. For the Lord Almighty has purposed, and who can thwart him? His hand is stretched out, and who can turn it back? Isaiah 14:27. For those who have spent their lives thriving on lies, manipulation, and oppression, imprisonment becomes a mirror. Stripped of their power and pretense, they are forced to confront the truth they've avoided for so long, the harm they've caused and the divine authority they dared to challenge. Have you noticed how the mighty seem to fall hardest? This isn't just a random event. It's God's justice in motion. This is not simply a fall from grace. It's a reckoning for all to witness. Those who once walked with arrogance, flaunting their influence and wealth, are now reduced to mere mortals. Their titles, resources, and self-made thrones vanish. They're no longer the rulers of their empires, but individuals sitting face to face with the consequences of their choices. The arrogance of man will be brought low, and human pride humbled. The Lord alone will be exalted in that day. Isaiah 2:17. And here's the profound truth. God doesn't hide this process. Their imprisonment becomes a public lesson, a powerful reminder of what happens when people defy divine authority and come against the chosen ones. It's as if God uses their downfall to broadcast a message. No one is above his justice. No matter how untouchable they seemed, no amount of human power can stand against God. Think about King Nebuchadnezzar in the book of Daniel. He ruled with unmatched arrogance, believing his kingdom was the result of his own might. But what happened? God humbled him, driving him to live like a wild animal until he acknowledged God's sovereignty. The Most High is sovereign over all kingdoms on earth and gives them to anyone he wishes. Daniel 4:32. While the wicked are confined, their inner turmoil becomes their greatest punishment. Guilt, regret, and the weight of their actions consume them. They're no longer blinded by the illusion of control, but confronted by the reality of their choices. Do you see how this echoes in the lives of those who come against you? Their downfall isn't just physical, it's spiritual, emotional, and deeply personal. Meanwhile, the chosen ones, those they sought to destroy, continue to rise. You remain untouched, shielded by divine protection, proving to everyone that God's justice is not only real, but unavoidable. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. Psalm 28:7. What's even more striking is how their fall becomes a lesson for the world. Jail isn't just a cell, it's a stage. It's where God makes a bold statement. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6:7. So, while they wrestle with their failures and watch their empires crumble, you continue to walk in purpose. Their arrogance becomes the catalyst for their destruction, and their downfall serves as a warning to anyone who dares to challenge the chosen. Doesn't it bring peace to know that no amount of human power, no scheme, no act of oppression can stand against the justice of God? Jail is not just a punishment, it's a divine declaration that His justice reigns supreme. 5. The failed assassination plan. When people set out to destroy a chosen one, they aim for complete devastation. It's not enough for them to cause inconvenience or create minor obstacles. They want total destruction. They seek to break your spirit, shatter your peace, and reduce your life to ruins. But here's what they fail to understand. What God has chosen cannot be destroyed. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Psalm 27:1. Every scheme, every carefully laid trap, and every calculated attempt to take you down is doomed to fail before it even begins. Why? Because the chosen ones carry a divine shield, a protection that isn't just passive. It actively works against those who plot harm. Do you remember the story of Daniel in the lion's den? His enemies conspired to have him thrown into a pit with hungry lions, confident their plan would destroy him. But what happened? Not a single lion touched him because God's protection was with him. The same trap meant for Daniel became the undoing of those who plotted against him. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Isaiah 54:17. The beauty of this divine shield is how it turns the enemy's plans into their own downfall. Their lies unravel, their alliances crumble, and their strategies collapse under their own weight. It's not just failure, it's divine intervention. The very weapons formed against you become the tools of their destruction. Have you ever noticed how effortlessly God's protection works? Your enemies pour energy, time, and resources into their plans, yet they only end up watching everything fall apart. Imagine their frustration as they realize their power, no matter how great it seemed, is useless against God's plan for your life. There is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. Proverbs 21:30. Look at the story of Haman in the book of Esther. He spent every waking moment plotting to destroy Mordecai and the Jewish people, building gallows in anticipation of their downfall. But his plans didn't just fail, they backfired. Haman himself was hanged on the very gallows he constructed. This is how divine justice works. Through all of this, you, the chosen one, remain standing. Your spirit is unbroken, your peace intact, and your life continues to thrive. They don't understand it. How could you possibly walk away unscathed after all they've done? The answer is simple. God's protection over the chosen is absolute and unshakable. Their failed assassination plan becomes more than just their defeat. It becomes your testimony. It's a visible reminder of God's overwhelming power and faithfulness. When they realize that their efforts have only served to highlight His greatness, they're left to deal with the fallout of their actions. But the Lord is faithful, and He will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. 2 Thessalonians 3:3. Meanwhile, you continue to move forward, untouched and unshaken. Their weapons didn't prosper, their schemes didn't succeed. Instead, their failure becomes a public declaration of God's sovereignty. It's a reminder to all that no human power can stand against the plans of God. Doesn't it bring peace to know that no matter how many plans are formed against you, they can never succeed? With God on your side, every attack becomes an opportunity to display His glory, proving that His plans for you cannot be stopped. 6. The reversal of roles. Life has a way of flipping the script, doesn't it? But for the chosen ones, this reversal of roles isn't just a coincidence, it's divine poetry. Those who once schemed against you, manipulated circumstances, and pulled strings to control your life, now find themselves in an unimaginable position, powerless. The Lord works out everything to its proper end, even the wicked for a day of disaster. Proverbs 16:4. Their relentless attempts to dictate your destiny have backfired, and now their own fate hangs in the balance. They once thrived on control, making moves in secret and believing they held all the cards. But what they never realized is that they were never truly in control to begin with. Their arrogance blinded them to the fact that God was always the true author of your story. The plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. Psalm 33:11. Do you see how quickly the tables turn? One moment, they are issuing threats, plotting your downfall and deciding your future. The next, they are at the mercy of forces far greater than themselves. Their power, which they once wielded so arrogantly, has been stripped away, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. Can you think of a time when someone underestimated God's protection over you and ended up facing the consequences of their own actions? The story of Haman in the book of Esther perfectly captures this reversal of roles. Haman built gallows for Mordecai, confident in his plan to destroy him. Yet by God's design, it was Haman who was hanged on those very gallows. This wasn't just justice. It was a demonstration of divine order, a reminder that no one can rewrite the destiny God has already written. This isn't simply a loss of power for your enemies, it's a complete role reversal. The ones who once felt invincible are now left waiting, watching, and facing the very consequences they thought were reserved for others. They, who once thrived on controlling outcomes, are now spectators in their own downfall. The Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He frustrates the plans of the peoples. Psalm 33:10. For you, this reversal isn't about revenge. It's about justice. It's about watching God's promises unfold in a way that leaves no doubt about his sovereignty. Do you remember the story of Joseph? His brothers plotted against him, selling him into slavery, thinking they had erased him from their lives. Yet, years later, Joseph stood as a ruler in Egypt, the very man who held their fate in his hands. While your enemies scramble to make sense of their crumbling plans and vanished positions, you rise. Their attempts to deny you your purpose only propel you further into the calling God has designed for you. How powerful is it to know that their actions couldn't stop what was destined for you? The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. Psalm 37:23-24. This is no coincidence, it's divine order. The roles have shifted and the message is undeniable. The chosen ones are never at the mercy of their enemies. Instead, their enemies become a lesson in the unstoppable power of God's justice. So, as they watch helplessly while their plans crumble, take heart. Their downfall is not about your strength, it's about God's sovereignty. The reversal of roles is a testimony to his faithfulness, a reminder that no one can overturn what he has ordained for you. 7. When God is silent, it's strategy. Have you ever found yourself praying fervently, crying out for intervention, only to be met with silence? It's unsettling, isn't it? When your enemies are loud and relentless and heaven seems quiet, it's easy to wonder if God is ignoring your cries. But here's the truth. God's silence is never a sign of inaction, it's strategy. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Psalm 37:7. When God is silent, He's not absent, He's observing. Every plot, every lie, and every attack is being recorded with divine precision. His silence isn't negligence, it's preparation. He's setting the stage for something far greater than an immediate response, a perfect, undeniable act of justice. Do you remember the story of Jesus before his crucifixion? When he stood trial, falsely accused and mocked, he didn't defend himself. His silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. Isaiah 53:7. His silence allowed the full depth of his enemy's wickedness to be exposed, setting the stage for the ultimate victory through the resurrection. God's silence works the same way in your life. It's a divine setup, a calculated chess move that allows your enemies to believe they've won. They mistake his quietness for absence, growing bolder in their actions, and unknowingly digging their own graves. This isn't punishment for you, it's exposure for them. For there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. Luke 12:2. Have you noticed how time reveals the true nature of people? If God acted immediately, the depth of their wickedness might never come to light. But by waiting, he allows their intentions to be fully exposed, giving the world a front row seat to their downfall. Think about Pharaoh in Exodus. He refused to let the Israelites go, hardening his heart again and again. With each refusal, his arrogance grew, but so did the magnitude of his eventual defeat. God's timing wasn't delayed, it was deliberate. But for this purpose I have raised you up, to show you my power, so that my name may be proclaimed in all the earth. Exodus 9:16. It's not just about punishing your enemies, it's about making it undeniable that they brought it upon themselves. When God moves, there's no confusion, no ambiguity. His silence transforms into the loudest answer, a declaration of his unmatched wisdom and timing. Can you see now how his quietness is never a sign of abandonment, but a strategy for your ultimate victory? Think of the story of Job. Through all his suffering, it seemed like God was silent, allowing the enemy to attack relentlessly. But in the end, God restored Job's fortunes, proving his faithfulness and justice. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. Job 42:12. While you wait, God is working behind the scenes. Every delay is deliberate. Every moment of silence is part of his plan to align everything perfectly for your triumph. And when he finally moves, it's swift, precise, and undeniable. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. 2 Peter 3:9. So when God seems silent, take heart. Know that he is watching, waiting, and setting the stage for a victory far greater than you could have imagined. His silence is not the absence of his hand, it's the brilliance of his strategy. 8. Life versus legacy. Your enemies thought that destroying you would be their ultimate triumph. They didn't just want to disrupt your peace or hinder your progress. They aimed to erase your existence entirely. But here's the irony. In their obsession with taking your life, they destroyed something far greater, their own legacy. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Proverbs 26:27. Every act of malice, every scheme, and every word of slander they unleashed against you became the seeds of their own downfall. While they worked tirelessly to tear you down, they unknowingly built a reputation for themselves, a reputation of disgrace and shame. What they didn't anticipate was your resilience. You didn't just survive their attacks, you thrived in spite of them. Doesn't it speak volumes about the power of God's protection when the very weapons formed against you become the instruments of your testimony? The story of Joseph in Genesis reminds us of this truth. His brothers, consumed by jealousy, sold him into slavery, believing they had ended his dreams and erased his future. But God had other plans. Joseph's life became a legacy of triumph, while his brothers were left to grapple with the shame of their actions. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Genesis 50:20. Your enemies are no different. Their attempts to ruin you only amplified your testimony. While they fade into obscurity, remembered only for their misdeeds, your life becomes a beacon of hope and victory. They thought they were silencing your story, but all they did was make it louder, a testimony to God's power and faithfulness. The memory of the righteous is a blessing, but the name of the wicked will rot. Proverbs 10:7. As you rise, they fall. It's not coincidence, it's divine justice. God ensured that their plans to destroy you would achieve the opposite. While they were consumed with ending your story, they unwittingly ended their own. Their legacy is now one of pride, malice, and failure, while yours shines as a testimony of endurance and faith. Do you see how God's hand has worked in your life, turning every attack into a stepping stone for something greater? Consider the story of Saul of Tarsus before his transformation into Paul. As a persecutor of Christians, Saul sought to destroy lives and silence voices. Yet his legacy of destruction ended the moment he encountered Jesus on the road to Damascus. His life was transformed, and his new purpose overshadowed the shame of his past. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. God's work in your life is no less profound. The very harm meant to silence you becomes the foundation of your testimony. Their schemes were never powerful enough to erase you because God's hand was always on you. While they plotted in pride, God prepared your victory. Their downfall is not just a punishment, it's a lesson, a cautionary tale of what happens when pride and malice go unchecked. Meanwhile, your legacy becomes proof that God can turn anything meant for harm into something extraordinary. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. So while your enemies are remembered for their failures, your story continues to inspire. Your life stands as undeniable proof that with God in control, life always wins over legacy. You are living proof that no plan of destruction can succeed against what God has destined to thrive. 9. The instant shift. Have you ever witnessed a moment so sudden and profound that it left no doubt it was orchestrated by divine power? When God moves, it's not gradual or subtle, it's swift, absolute, and beyond human comprehension. He doesn't need days, weeks, or even hours. In a single moment, he can dismantle what took years to build. As Scripture reminds us, he brings princes to naught and reduces the rulers of this world to nothing. Isaiah 40:23. His authority is unmatched, and his timing is always perfect. Do you know someone who has grown so comfortable in their position of power that they believe they're untouchable? Those who once stood tall, boasting of their power and influence, can find themselves brought down in the blink of an eye. This instant shift reveals the unpredictability of God's justice. The enemies of the chosen ones often grow comfortable in their positions, mistaking their temporary success for permanence. They assume that their schemes, manipulations, and arrogance will shield them from consequences. But what they fail to realize is that God's silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Consider the story of King Belshazzar in Daniel 5. At the height of his arrogance, he defied God by using sacred temple vessels during a lavish feast. Yet, in that same moment, God delivered judgment. The mysterious writing on the wall declared his fate, and his kingdom was taken from him that very night. This moment illustrates how swiftly God's justice moves when his time comes. As the verse says, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. Daniel 5:25-28. A reminder that no human pride can stand before divine authority. Have you ever experienced a moment where someone's arrogance led to their downfall in an instant? This is how God operates. When he moves, the collapse is sudden and irreversible. Those who once thrived on pride and arrogance find themselves humbled in an instant. One day, they're at the top, controlling others, manipulating situations, and reveling in their schemes. The next, they're stripped of everything: power, status, and even the respect of those they once ruled. The Bible affirms this truth, saying, "For the Lord Almighty has purposed, and who can thwart him? His hand is stretched out, and who can turn it back?" Isaiah 14:27. It's a sobering reminder of how God's plans are unstoppable. Have you wondered why God sometimes seems to wait before acting? Think about Pharaoh in the book of Exodus. His resistance to God's command to free the Israelites led to one of the most dramatic reversals in history. Pharaoh's power seemed absolute, but when God acted, his control evaporated in an instant. The Red Sea swallowed his army, erasing the might he once wielded. What would it look like in your life to trust God's timing, even when everything seems silent? For the enemies of the chosen, this instant shift is a humbling reckoning. Their downfall becomes a testament to God's unmatched power and timing. And while they face the collapse of everything they once relied on, the chosen ones stand firm, shielded by divine protection. This truth is echoed in Hebrews. "Once more, I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens." Hebrews 12:26. When God decides to move, his actions reverberate across the physical and spiritual realms, leaving no doubt about his authority. For the chosen ones, this instant shift isn't just a victory, it's a testimony. It's proof that God's justice is not only real, but unstoppable. As your enemies fall, their downfall becomes a public reminder of God's sovereignty, a declaration that no human plan can alter his divine will. And as Paul reminds us in Romans, if God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. This rhetorical question stands as a powerful reminder that no force can stand in the way of God's plans for your life. Do you see how God's hand moves, turning the tide in your favor in ways no one could anticipate? When the shift happens, it's undeniable. It leaves the world in awe of his power, and you as a living testimony of his faithfulness. So, take heart. The same God who brings swift justice to your enemies is the one who ensures your victory. 10. The existence of spiritual immunity. Have you ever wondered how the chosen ones endure trials that would break others? While their enemies plot and scheme, confident in their plans, the chosen remain standing, unshaken in their strength and unbroken in their purpose. This resilience isn't luck or sheer determination, it's the anointing of God. But the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. 2 Thessalonians 3:3. The survival of the chosen isn't about their own strength, it's about the power working within them. While others crumble under the weight of adversity, the chosen ones are sustained by a source far greater than themselves. It's this spiritual immunity, this divine covering, that confounds their enemies. Time and time again, schemes fail, traps backfire, and attempts to destroy them fall short. Their enemies are left frustrated and powerless, unable to comprehend why their efforts amount to nothing. Do you remember David's words in the Psalms? "The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. My heart leaps for joy, and with my song I praise him." Psalm 28:7. This is the secret of the chosen ones. Their strength is not their own, but comes directly from God. This immunity doesn't mean the chosen are exempt from pain or struggle. They face hardships, setbacks, and moments of difficulty just like anyone else. Yet there's a difference. They're never defeated. Their spirit remains untouched because God's protection ensures their ultimate victory. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Isaiah 54:17. Think about Joseph, sold into slavery by his brothers and later falsely accused and imprisoned. To anyone else, his situation might have seemed hopeless, but Joseph carried a divine immunity. Every setback only propelled him closer to his purpose, and every attempt to harm him ultimately failed. His story reminds us that the chosen are not only protected, but positioned for greatness through their trials. Have you seen this in your own life? Times when attacks came your way, but instead of breaking you, they revealed the depth of God's strength within you. The efforts of the enemies of the chosen always end in futility. Their lies unravel, their alliances crumble, and their plans dissolve under the weight of divine protection. They come to realize that no force on earth can override the will of God. As Scripture declares, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand." Psalm 37:23-24. This spiritual immunity is a testament to the power of God's anointing. The chosen are living proof that God's will cannot be thwarted. Their survival is not just a victory, it's a declaration of God's unmatched sovereignty. For the Lord, your God, is the one who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you victory. Deuteronomy 24. When enemies see the chosen standing firm, it serves as a humbling reminder of God's authority. They can scheme, attack, and try to destroy, but their efforts will always fall short. The chosen spirit remains untouchable because it is sustained by the Creator himself. Doesn't it bring comfort to know that your strength comes not from what you can do, but from the one who holds the entire universe in his hands? While others falter under pressure, you remain. While others are overwhelmed, you endure. This isn't just survival, it's spiritual immunity, and it's proof that the chosen are never truly at the mercy of their enemies. Their strength is God's strength, and no force can stand against it. 11. The duality of jail, physical and spiritual. Jail is often viewed as a physical punishment, a place where freedom is stripped away and people are locked behind bars of steel and stone. But for those who rise against the chosen ones, imprisonment takes on a far deeper dimension. It's not just their bodies that are confined, it's their spirits. "There is no peace for the wicked," says the Lord. Isaiah 48:22. While your enemies may face physical jail sentences, the real punishment is far more profound. Imagine being confined in a space where the walls aren't just physical, they're made of regret, guilt, and the crushing realization that they challenged something divinely protected. In the stillness of their confinement, they come face to face with the truth they worked so hard to deny. Every malicious action, every selfish decision, every scheme driven by pride now turns against them, and the spiritual burden becomes unbearable. Have you ever considered how the weight of guilt can imprison someone more completely than any cell ever could? This spiritual imprisonment is inescapable. No amount of money, influence, or power can free them from the torment of their own conscience. They may try to mask it, walking around with their heads held high, pretending to be unaffected, but inside they are prisoners. Their minds replay their wrongdoings over and over, trapping them in a cycle of shame and regret. Wickedness punishes the wicked, and they are caught in the cords of their sin. Proverbs 5:22. Meanwhile, the chosen ones, those they sought to destroy, thrive. Their lives remain untouched by the attacks meant to harm them, their spirits free and unburdened. This stark contrast between the freedom of the chosen and the spiritual imprisonment of the wicked is the ultimate justice. Consider Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Even after he carried out his betrayal, his guilt consumed him. No amount of silver could ease the weight of his regret. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse. Matthew 27:3. The spiritual torment led Judas to his ultimate downfall, a vivid example of how inner imprisonment can outweigh any external punishment. Do you see how divine justice works? It doesn't just stop at external consequences. It reaches the deepest parts of the soul, exposing the truth and enforcing accountability. Physical bars may be removed, but the inner torment lingers. Those who come against the chosen ones carry the unrelenting weight of knowing they failed, not just in their schemes, but in defying God Himself. For we know Him who said, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay." And again, "The Lord will judge His people." Hebrews 10:30. What makes this punishment so striking is its permanence. While physical confinement may end, the spiritual imprisonment remains. It's not just about being behind bars, it's about being trapped in a state of relentless self-condemnation. Can you imagine living every day with the realization that you lost to something far greater than yourself, a divine justice you cannot escape? The contrast is clear. While your enemies wrestle with guilt and regret, you rise. While they are trapped in cycles of spiritual torment, you walk freely in the purpose God has set before you. Their attempts to destroy you only highlight the power of God's protection over your life. This duality of jail, physical and spiritual, is the ultimate reminder of God's sovereignty. The physical bars are nothing compared to the inner torment of knowing they lost to divine justice. Their punishment is not just a moment, but a lasting consequence, a constant reminder that no one can outrun the results of their actions when God is in control. 12. God's wrath is surgical. Have you ever noticed how God's justice is never chaotic or random? His wrath isn't about uncontrolled destruction. It's precise, calculated, and intentional. When the wicked think they've escaped judgment, they overlook one essential truth. God doesn't deal in randomness. Every action He takes is deliberate, targeting exactly where it matters most. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for Him. Isaiah 30:18. Unlike human revenge, which often seeks to hurt for the sake of hurting, God's wrath is purposeful. It's never about senseless punishment. It's about restoration, accountability, and justice. He doesn't simply target the external consequences of sin. He goes to the root of it. For those who plot against the chosen ones, His actions strike at the heart of their pride and ego, exposing the illusions of control and power they once held so dearly. Have you ever wondered why some people's downfall seems to hit them where it hurts the most? Could it be that God is addressing something deeper than just their actions? Think of Pharaoh in the book of Exodus. His arrogance made him believe he could defy God's command to free the Israelites. But God's plagues weren't random acts of destruction. They were targeted lessons, each one dismantling a specific pillar of Pharaoh's power and the false gods of Egypt. When God finally acted at the Red Sea, Pharaoh's entire army was wiped out, and with it, the illusion of his invincibility. Doesn't it bring comfort to know that God's justice is always exact, addressing not just the surface, but the root cause? This is the surgical precision of his wrath. The wicked are often blind to the connection between their downfall and the seeds they've sown. They may lose their wealth, status, or reputation, but these are merely symptoms. The true punishment lies in the shattering of their sense of self, their belief in their invincibility. God doesn't just take away material things. He dismantles the very foundation of their pride and security. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. Consider King Nebuchadnezzar in the book of Daniel. His pride led him to declare that his power alone had built the great kingdom of Babylon, but God humbled him, driving him to live like a wild animal until he acknowledged God's sovereignty. Nebuchadnezzar's wealth and kingdom remained intact, but his pride was shattered. A surgical act of divine wrath aimed at restoring humility. Those who walk in pride he is able to humble. Daniel 4:37. Have you experienced or observed a situation where someone's arrogance led to their complete humbling? What does that reveal about how God deals with pride? What makes God's justice even more profound is that it teaches lessons not just to those who are punished, but to everyone who observes it. His actions serve as a public declaration that no one can escape divine justice. They remind the world that God's timing is perfect, his actions deliberate, and his purpose unshakable. When God acts, he leaves no room for misunderstanding. His wrath is not about destroying for destruction's sake. It's about restoring balance, teaching humility, and reminding everyone of his unmatched authority. Do you see how his justice is designed not just to punish but to teach and correct? The lessons are clear. No one can defy divine authority and escape the consequences, while human revenge blinds itself with rage. God's wrath is guided by wisdom, ensuring that justice is served and restoration is possible. For the chosen ones, this precision is a reminder of the depth of God's protection. For their enemies, it's an unmistakable declaration that no scheme or power can stand against the will of God. Do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6:7. God's wrath is always fitting, always timely, and always just. It strikes at the heart of the matter, leaving no doubt that his authority is absolute. While the wicked are humbled and their pride dismantled, the chosen ones rise, their testimony amplified by the justice of God. In the grand tapestry of life, every thread is carefully woven with purpose, and every act, whether good or evil, carries the weight of its consequences. The chosen ones, though faced with storms, struggles, and betrayal, remain steadfast. Their strength comes not from their own might, but from the divine protection of a power far greater than any earthly force. For those who plot against you, the chosen, no amount of strategy, influence, or deceit can stand against the unyielding precision of divine justice. God's silence is not his absence, it is his strategy. His wrath, surgical and purposeful, dismantles the pride and arrogance of the wicked, ensuring that justice is served at the deepest level. The tables always turn. The enemies of the chosen may walk confidently for a time, but their reckoning is inevitable. Whether in this life or the next, their efforts to destroy the chosen only hasten their own downfall. Their legacy crumbles, their power fades, and their schemes are exposed for all to see. Meanwhile, the chosen rise, stronger, unbroken, and more radiant than ever before. In the end, it is not the power of the enemy that prevails, but the invincible force of divine protection and justice. The chosen are not merely survivors, they are living testimonies of God's faithfulness. Their lives stand as proof that no weapon formed against them will prosper. To all of you reading this, take heart. Know that you are chosen, protected, and deeply loved. No scheme, no attack, No force can stand against the purpose God has placed on your life. Trust in His timing, lean on His strength, and know that His justice is always perfect and always on time. Thank you for journeying through this reflection. May you walk in confidence, knowing that the same God who fights for you will also bring His justice to pass. May His blessings overflow in your life, filling you with peace, purpose, and unwavering faith. Stay strong, and remember, the final victory is always God's, and with Him it is also yours. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this post to show your support, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and let's spread the truth of God's unwavering justice together. Your engagement helps inspire others and keeps the conversation alive. Together, let's remind the world that with God, the chosen are unstoppable.